Welcome to English Country Life and welcome to the chicken area. This is the August episode of our series The Chicken Year, where we cover all aspects of general chicken keeping and of course our breeding flock of broody hens. They're Buff Orpingtons. So come and join us. Welcome, my name's Fiona and welcome to the chicken field on this gloriously hot summer's day. Now it's not that hot, we did have temperatures at the back end of July. Not far from here recorded the highest ever UK temperature and it was literally less than 10 miles from us. That was 104 degrees Fahrenheit or 40 degrees Celsius. So everything we showed you in the July episode with hot weather care and treatment, we actually undertook. And we're going to be showing you an extra thing which we didn't feature last month, just to think about too. We're also going to be talking about our coop cleaning cycle because warmer weather brings with it a risk of pests like chicken lice, northern fowl mite and red mite. And during the summer months our cleaning cycle is a lot more robust to make sure our chickens remain healthy. So I'm going to show you what we do daily and what we do each month so you can see that cycle. Now it may not suit you, but it is what we do and I'll explain the reasons why we do it that way as we go through. We're then going to be going on to our breeders, our Buff Orpingtons, because during August we are actually selling the first of our chicks and they're marshmallows. And she made them independent last month and this is a big point I want to make. We do not sell any of our chickens before our brood hens have left them. So if they are 7 days old, if they are 1 day old, they do not leave us. They have to wait until that brood hen has gone back to the main coop, and she does that naturally. That's not a forced process, because at that point she's signalling the chicks can regulate their own temperature, so they've got enough feathers on them that they can find food, they can find water, and really they can look after themselves. I'm going to show you that process because it is one which, if you decide to breed chickens, is something to think about. The last thing I'm going to talk to you about is second broods, because Marshmallow, it's her chicks that we're actually selling, and she made them independent roughly about the start of July, came back onto lay, and now she's incubating some more eggs. So I'm going to talk to you about second broods and what you can expect to do there. So let's get started. This is one of our Grandpa's feeders, and if you're a regular viewer to this channel, you'll know that we love these feeders. We've got 3 of them at the moment scattered around the field, and let me show you how they work. Treadle feeders are great for discouraging rodents and for reducing the loss of your chicken's food to wild birds. That's because they need an adult chicken or even a small number of youngsters to stand on the treadle plate. That lifts the lid and reveals the food. So why are we filming this segment? Well, we're in August and it's warm once again. It's one of those lovely hot summer months, and with that can come a problem with treadle feeders, and that's because the treadle is generally metal. We've got most of them set in shade, but this one is actually in dappled shade, and to make sure we've got adequate cover around the field, this is the best location for it. But that does come with an issue, because if the sun shines directly on this metal plate, it can heat up, and we don't want the chickens being discouraged from eating because the plate is too hot to stand on. And we also don't want to add any weight to the metal plate, because that means that it potentially could have wild birds getting on that treadle, opening it up, or even rodents being attracted in because they could then open it. So how do we protect this metal plate but don't add any weight? Well, I've got a simple solution. And what I use are these. They are just bits of polystyrene, so no weight to them whatsoever. These have come free in packaging for things we've bought and have been sent through the post. I just pop that on the metal plate. Now that's lightweight, so that could just be blown off by a breeze. So I take an old tea towel and actually cover it, pop it over the top, and then I wrap the whole thing with string. It's a very low-tech solution, but it does work, and the chicken's feet are protected and we're not adding weight to that treadle, so we're still safe from wild birds stealing the food and from the potential for rodents to come into the property and eat the chicken food too. And there we are, that's the treadle feeder in action with its insulated step. There's 3 of Taffy's chicks on there at the moment and they're tucking in. August is one of the warmest months of the year, and what we're asked about a lot is our cleaning routine. And obviously for chickens it's really important to be on top of the cleaning because it's phenomenal how much poop one chicken can produce, and we've got lots of them. So it came up in the comments again and I thought I'd cover it in this August episode. We've got 3 stages of cleaning we actually undertake, and the first is to do with this child's garden rake and a flat bucket. Now both of these I put into our Amazon storefront so you can get hold of them there, but I use this to pick up the poop that the chickens leave on the grass because, as I said, there's a lot of it and I don't want it to be smelling. So in the morning, sometimes in the evening if I've had a very busy day, but usually in the morning, I will go out and I will use this to pick up the poop, and it's really simple. So let me just show you that. How do I make this work? Well, it's really simple. I just hook the rake underneath and pop it in the bucket. If you're wondering what happens to all of that chicken poop once I've collected it, well, it comes here. This is our compost area, and this is a very old water butt that actually started leaking, so it's no use to us as a water butt. What I've done is I've drilled 1 or 2 holes in the bottom just to give some aeration, and then I've made a little wooden lid for it. Take that off, pop the bucket of poop in, lid back on, and then I wait, and that will rot down in these lovely warm summer days. And when I get to winter and all of my plants have died back in my flower beds and the plants have died back in the vegetable beds, I'll spread it on the top, and then the snow and ice over winter will do my job for me and it will bring all those nutrients into the soil. So really we've got a fantastic little closed loop system here of fertilizing the soil using our chickens' poop. The second part of our cleaning routine is a daily poo pick in the coop. Now, our chickens are very heavily feathered and very large, and they don't actually like to perch. Most chickens do, but ours don't. They prefer to sleep on the shavings on the base of the coop. So that's the first reason why we poo pick every single day, because we don't want them going into the coop the next night and sleeping on soiled shavings. It's not nice for them. And the second thing is, actually, particularly in August and the hot months, it reduces the risk of flies because you're taking that poop out. Instead of it being in an enclosed space which is going to attract them in and it's going to smell, it's much nicer all round. Now, to do this exercise I have 3 things. I have gloves because I'm in an enclosed space with the poop, but I also have a trug for the soil bedding to go into. But the main thing I use to scoop the poop is this, and this originally was a child's mucking out I wanted to show you that in slow motion because that was a sparrowhawk that was chasing a sparrow and it caught it just before it ploughed into the roof of the coop. That's the point at which the sparrow did get away. They clearly do chase and catch sparrows here, but raptors are not a problem for us in the UK. They've never gone after our chickens or even our chicks, possibly because of the size of our broody hens. And I have to say, I love watching our local sparrowhawks, buzzards and red kites, and now and again we even see a marsh harrier. This was originally a child's mucking out fork, and it would have had a handle about 3 foot long. Now Hugh's very kindly cut it down for me and it's now a handy hand fork. Let me show you how I use it. The fork means that I can hook out the poop without taking lots of perfectly good shavings at the same time, as most of the shavings fall through the prongs. That means I save money on coop bedding too. So what happens to all of that soiled bedding from the chicken coops? Well, it's fantastic as a mulch around heavily wooded fruit bushes. So nothing that has tender shoots coming through, because potentially the poop could, from the ammonia inside, burn the plants a little bit. We're looking for wooded stemmed fruit bushes, so we put it around the base of our gooseberries, our black currants, white currants, red currants, our raspberry canes and our blackberry canes. We've been doing this for about a decade and it works absolutely brilliantly. What the theory is that we'll mulch, the way that mulch works is that when it rains it lets the water through, but it's a thick layer so it doesn't allow the water to evaporate out, so it's great for the plants. But my theory in doing this too was that potentially that poop would gradually release its nutrients into the ground when it rained. It would take quite a bit of time for that poop to work its way down to the soil. And it's worked. We've been doing this for about 10 years and we've had very, very heavy fruit crops for quite a long time. And I'm actually quite pleased with how it's worked out. The third part of what we're doing is a deep clean every single month. Now for us, because we are chicken breeders, we have quite a lot of coops. So what I have to do is 2 or 3 coops every single weekend, particularly during the hot summer months. And that's because during the hot summer months there is a rise in pests like red mite, like northern fowl mite, like chicken lice, and they can hide in the coop structure. So we do need to go through this exercise. And the routine is really simple. The first thing is get all of the bedding out. Then what I do is give it a scrub down just with soapy water. Then I spray it to rinse it all off, and then I spray with an insecticidal disinfectant, so anything which still is living in the crevices definitely is going to be eradicated. But let me show you that routine. Welcome to the workshop. And yeah, I'm in the workshop, not in the chicken field. So what am I doing in here? And certainly what am I doing in here with some of our chickens in dog carry cases and dog crate? Well, there's a good reason for that. We are a small holding homestead, and in August this is a month where we start to sell some of our chickens. Our Buff Orpingtons have incubated, hatched and raised them, but at the end of the process we need to sell some of the chickens so that they are self-supporting. We need those sales to pay for all the chicken food and infrastructure changes in the field. But that doesn't explain why I'm in here and the chickens are in dog crates. Well, there's a really good reason for that. Actually, there's 3 reasons. And the first one is it maintains a degree of biosecurity. So when the buyer turns up, they can view the field from the outside. They don't need to come in with us to see the chickens and to inspect them. So we actually maintain a better level of biosecurity. The second reason is we are actually picking out specific hens for those buyers. We don't want to be chasing those chickens around the field, because although our chickens are incredibly friendly, if I go in the field now, I'm surrounded by them. But if we're selling individuals, those chickens won't be the ones that come to us. It's called sod's law. They will be the ones on the outside, and I end up chasing them around, and that's traumatic for them and it's traumatic for me. So what do? Well, the night before the chickens are going to be sold, myself and Hugh, we go out when the chickens are asleep, when they're roosting, and we can easily pick out the individual chickens which are being sold, calmly pick them out while they're asleep, bring them in and isolate them in these dog crates or the old dog cage. And that is really easy to do, and it keeps them calm. And as you can see, they're calm in here now. They're perfectly happy. They've got food, they've got water, everything is absolutely fine. and it stops me getting a little bit upset. The third reason for having them in these dog carry cases in the dog cage is that the buyer can then easily inspect the chickens to assure themselves that they're as healthy as possible before they leave us and go off to their new home. And this is something we encourage all of our buyers to do. So what are they checking for? Well, they're checking their eyes, their nose and the mouth to make sure that there's no discharge. They're also checking the vent at the back of the chicken to make sure that that area is clean and clear. Now, in these carry cases, they may have actually sat in some poop, but what we want to make sure is it's not surrounded in it and there's no evidence of runny diarrhea or anything like that. And we know our chickens are healthy, but we need our buyers to be assured. And the last thing we ask our buyers to check for are pests. Now, again, we know our chickens don't have these, but we want our buyers to leave us with chickens which they are assured meet those health standards. So they're checking for chicken lice, for northern fowl mite and for red mite. And this whole process, it's a little bit sad for us to see them go after we've had a field full of youngsters. But that's another point. We won't sell these youngsters until their brood hen has made them independent. So we don't sell day-old chicks. We don't sell them while they're still sleeping with their brood hen. We wait for that brood hen to go back to the main coop and leave those chicks to be independent, because she signaled at that point that those chicks can actually fend for themselves. They know how to forage, they know how to find food, they know how to find water to drink, they know where they're supposed to sleep, and they have enough feathering to maintain their own core body temperature, and that's really important. So we don't sell them before the brood hen leaves them. Either way, it's still a little bit sad to see them go. But the new buyer is going to be here in half an hour, and yeah, it's all part of our process. Back in our May episode, you'll remember seeing Marshmallow brooding for the first time this year. By June, she'd hatched those chicks and since then has raised them to independence. She then briefly came back onto lay. This is Marshmallow at the beginning of August and she's brooding again. So is this normal? Well, the first thing to remember is that most modern breeds and hybrids have been bred specifically to reduce the risk of any brooding. It can happen, but it is unlikely. If you have an older breed, it is more likely that they will brood. Orpingtons are notorious for brooding, so I'm going to talk about our experience with Orpingtons. If one of our hens hatches chicks as a result of a brood, we've found that roughly 2/3 of those hens will only brood once in spring. The remaining third will brood again either in late summer or autumn. We've not yet had a broody hen that's raised chicks that will also have brooded more than twice in a year. The number of broods can be significantly different if those hens don't hatch chicks as a result of a brood. For example, a friend of ours has an Orpington that's brooded 3 times already this year, and that's because she's not had any eggs to incubate or chicks to raise. It is something to be aware of if you select a breed that's more likely to brood. There you have it, that's August in a nutshell. And if you have any questions for us which haven't been answered in this episode, pop it in the comment section down below. We'll try and get back to you as soon as possible. And just like the segment in this video about our coop cleaning cycle, that came from a viewer question, so it's possible we may feature it in another episode of this series, The Chicken Year Month by Month. If you have liked this episode, take a moment and give me a thumbs up down below. And if you're not already a subscriber, hit subscribe and the bell icon. It's completely free. You'll be notified of every new video as soon as it goes live. But for now, thanks for watching and I look forward to seeing you next time.